Hey everybody. So today I wanted to power rank the ACC teams, a little preseason rankings before the 2023 season, and I'm just going to rank the teams over who I think is best. I had a little bit of trouble because it seems like to me a lot of these teams are probably a lot similar, and trying to trying to rank the and pick ACC games when you get towards the middle of the pack is a near impossible task. So bear with me. You'll almost certainly disagree with some of the stuff I have here, but at least starting off, I think that there's not much controversy here when I reveal number one is going to be Clemson. They are, I think, the best team in the conference. I mean, yes, I do think that Florida State is really good, which we'll go ahead and reveal them as number two. I do think that Florida State is going to be really good. I think people are taking it a little too far. For Clemson this year, I'm really, excited. Well, not excited because I don't really like them, but I don't particularly hate them either. I just think that they made a really, really good choice hiring Garrett Riley. I never thought, Dabo would do it. He has, fired the guy that he promoted from within that never should have had the job in the first place, and gone and got, a nationally coveted guy. And Garrett Riley had one of the best offenses in the country last year. And Garrett Riley, I mean, it was just an amazing hire. I think their offense is going to be, back to what kind of we're used to with Clemson. Of course, they've been down these past couple years, been really vulnerable, and I think that they're going to be back to form here this year. And I think they're even going to be challenging they're going to be in the playoffs and challenging for a national championship. I think they're going to be that good. Garrett Riley, if he can do it at TCU, he can do it at Clemson. I don't see why that, even some Clemson fans I've mentioned that too are like, whoa, I don't know about that, but Clemson has a lot less of a way to go with TCU, and I know it's not like a one-to-one thing. Like just because it worked at TCU doesn't mean it can work at Clemson, and obviously it's his first year there, but an elite offensive mind like that at Clemson, I think, is a really deadly combination. And Clemson, in my opinion, doesn't have that far to climb to be a national championship contender again. So I fully expect them to win one here in the next couple of years, if not this year. Wouldn't surprise me at all. So I've got them at number one. Now, number two, like I mentioned, Florida State. Listen, if this was the Clemson, in my opinion, right, that's why a lot of people are thinking that FSU is going to challenge Clemson this year, but I think I'm higher on Clemson than most people are. I think that they're one of the best, probably three teams in the country. And a lot of people think that they won't be that, and so in that case, Florida State would be able to challenge them. Well, I just don't think so. I think Clemson's going to be that much better. Florida State could be better than they were last year and still not reach the height of Clemson because Clemson has just climbed that much further, if that makes sense. So I really don't think that Florida State will have taken that big of a jump here and, from this year to the next. It takes a long time to get to that level. And, if I'm wrong and if Clemson, isn't a national championship contender, if they're sort of similar to what they were last year, then yes, Florida State absolutely has a chance to win, the game against Clemson and push for an ACC title. I just don't think so. I think Florida State, what I'm really thinking here is they'll probably lose both times to Clemson. If they want to win the ACC, they're going to have to beat Clemson twice. I fully anticipate these two teams being in the ACC championship, but I think I'm going to give it to Clemson probably both times. Just don't think Florida State is there yet. They are going to be really good, though, and they'll probably have a really, really good year and a great record. Maybe even upset them one of the times. It's hard to say, when you play a really good team twice, it's hard to beat them twice. So, all right, moving on from that, I've got Pitt. Now, this might surprise people. I don't know. I just think Pitt's really good. I think that they're going to I think there's a big gap between them and, number 2, Florida State. I think there's a big gap there, but I think that, Pitt's just a really well-coached team by Coach Narduzzi. They've got a lot of senior talent. I'm high on Phil Jerkovic going into the season. I think he can do some really good stuff there. And I put a lot of stock into well-coached teams. And not only are they well-coached, but, they've got decent talent, and they've got, older, experienced guys. They always seem to. And they're really good in the lines of scrimmage, and I just put a lot of stock into that. I have more faith in that than, say, North Carolina. You know what I mean? So that's why I've got Pitt so high. I think that they have a nice combination of coaching, talent, and seniority that just kind of makes me feel better putting them there than UNC. And this might also surprise people. But for number 4, I've got Duke. So like I said, I put, a lot of stock into the well-coached thing. The Duke lacks, worse than Pitt, is talent. Duke does not have a lot of talent. What they are is pulling a lot from what they had on the roster. I'm sure that they're going to be able to build it up. I mean, we'll see what kind of recruiter Mike Elko is if he doesn't get snatched up out of Duke by some, bigger program, because he's really made a name for himself. Took a 3-9 freaking team to 8-4, absolutely outstanding, and I think they'll be as good, if not better, than last year. I mean, I'm glad that my Jackets don't got to play them. I mean, we beat them last year, but I'm not sure that we could this year because, nobody expected anything from them last year, and so if they can do that in the first year, I'm really interested to see what they're going to be able to cook up there, with a lot of time. As long as Mike Elko is there, he's got more time to build up his roster and build up everything that he's trying to do there. I've got a lot of faith in him, so super impressed by him. And once again, I'll take him over, a well-coached team, a tough team, over somebody like North Carolina, who I have at number 5. North Carolina, I know they got Drake May, they got talent, they got all this. They're just so inconsistent. It's hard for me. I'm not even trash talking. It's just hard to have any faith in them. I think a lot of people forget what, what they have been. I mean, under Sam Howell, just because they have a good quarterback. I mean, Sam Howell was a great quarterback, and still, they would go 6-6 and stuff like that. So, Drake May's really, really good, really talented. I just don't know, man. I just don't know. North Carolina can't seem to get out of their own way for whatever it is. They have a hard time consistently being really good. So anytime that there's somewhere with comparable talent that's better coached than them, I'm going to put my money on the other teams. So that's why I have, Duke and Pitt above them. You can cry about it, whatever. I'm just right. Could be wrong. If North Carolina plays to their potential of the talent that they have on their roster, they could be a top 3 team in the conference. They could push for a spot in the ACC championship. They could do all that. They could run the table in the ACC. Well, I haven't seen their schedule. If they have Clemson on their schedule, that's an L. And probably Florida State too. But if they played, I'd take Pitt or Duke over them right now on a neutral field. I just don't have much faith in them. They're too volatile. Their defense is too big of a question for me. And so I just don't think that, not to mention their epic collapse towards the end of the season at the hands of my Jackets, lose 5 straight games or whatever it was. Totally pitiful. I mean, they'll find a way to lose even with this amazing talent that they have. So I'm going to go ahead and put them there. Moving on to number 6, I've got Wake Forest. Hugely high on Dave Clawson. I've done nothing but compliment Dave Clawson and say how I think he's one of the best coaches in the country. I can't freaking gush over Dave Clawson enough. Really wanted him to come coach my Jackets. I knew it was a long shot, but that would have been my number 1 choice. So I just really have a lot of respect for Dave Clawson. I think he's a great coach. He did lose, Sam Hartman. That's been the talking point that everybody said about him, and this Wake Forest team. They were a bit mid last year. I just think that any given year they have the potential. They have they're like a 6-7 team, and that's their floor. They're not going to be any worse than that. They're going to always be well coached. I just think that the talent is a little bit, less. It's kind of why I put them under North Carolina. They're always really well coached, but some years they just aren't able to overcome that with the players they have. Who is this Mitch Griffiths guy at quarterback? Don't know. I give him the benefit of the doubt because I'm sure that Dave Clawson's going to put out an offense, a team that's really competitive and really tough out there, and that they're going to be able to achieve with whatever they have. But I just they did lose a lot, so I'm a little sketched out. I just give them the benefit of the doubt. I always have faith in Wake Forest, and this team has potential to be really good too any year. It's just hard to tell. It's hard to tell. You can look at who they've lost and everything, but at the end of the day, Dave Clawson's going to pull some freaking 3-star nobody's ever heard of out of his ass, and everybody's going to be talking about him on a national level. So could that be this year? Don't know. Could happen any year with Wake Forest. Just too hard to predict unless you know the program intimately well, which I really don't. Wake Forest is one of Georgia Tech's new yearly rivals under the 3-3-5 offense, so I am going to be paying more attention to them, which is fine. I love watching Dave Clawson and have a lot of respect for him and everything, so I got him here among the top. And if you'll notice, I kind of have – this is almost like tiers too. So I have the, Clemson and Florida State in a league of their own. Then I have these 4 teams, which I think will be battling for the kind of next tier. I think, I've got this separated into tiers almost, and we're about to get to the kind of middle of the road tier. This was the good tier, and then, of course, Clemson and Florida State were in the, really good tier. So going down to our kind of middle of the road teams, at the top of those teams, I have Miami. Now, maybe I'm laughed at for this. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, you know what? No. I'm probably going to have people getting on to me because they do every year for ranking Miami too low. I think I might be ranking them a little too high here. You know what I mean? Miami is – do I even have to say it? They underperform every single year. Don't give me this crap about – it's every year with this. I overrank them every year. I underrank them every year based on what everybody else is ranking them. So if they're picking Miami to go 10-2, I'm picking them to go 8-4, and I get called an idiot, and then they go 5-7. Okay, I'm not going to hear anything about where I have Miami. I think I might be placing them a little too high, but that's because I'm realistic. I'd love to predict them to just suck again. I think they will steadily get better under Mario Cristobal. This year has potential to be a great year for them. 8 or maybe 9 wins as a ceiling, I think. Nothing crazy. They're not going to be competing for the ACC championship or whatever else dumb freaking impossible goals that their fans have for them. And I think they can get to, 8 wins or something. I think they'll probably be around 7-5. Anything less than that, 6-6, 7-5, that'd be an all right year. That he's trying to get his system into the locker room and trying to get his culture instilled, and Mario Cristobal there, and that's a lot of work, and it's only his second year, so don't expect a huge, something huge from him. He's recruiting out of his mind, and he's doing a really good job. So 7 wins would be great for Miami, and the reason I put them kind of at the top of this tier is because of their talent. Now, if they play to their talent, they obviously, like North Carolina, have a potential to be competing for the top of the conference. A lot of the times they underperform to their talent. And that's not just Miami, that's Mario Cristobal too. Anytime Mario Cristobal ran into a well-coached team at Oregon, he had, the most talented teams out in the Pac-12, but anytime he ran into a well-coached team, he would get whooped. For example, Utah. Utah was consistently, had less talent than them, just better coach, and Utah would whoop them. And it happened twice in a row before Mario came to Miami. So, if the My Yellow Jackets, for example, can be better coached. Yes, any given year we will be able to beat Miami. I'm just not sure. It's super hard to call. I'll just go ahead and reveal my next team is my Yellow Jackets. It's super hard to call this game for me. It's hard to tell, in my opinion. Are we going to be at a level where we are tougher than that talent at Miami, or are they going to be able to, kind of out-talent us? And are we not there with the toughness yet? I don't know. I'm erring on the side of the talent here because it is the first year for, Brent Key and everything. So that's why I've got Miami edging out my Jackets. I am super high on my Jackets. People who've listened to me might not think that I'm might be surprised that I put them this low because I'm super high. Well, I haven't predicted my team to beat anybody that's above us. Well, besides North Carolina, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that when I do my schedule predictions. But yes, I do think that, Georgia Tech is going to be a well-coached team. Super high on what Brent Key's done, brought in the transfers. Obviously, we have room to move up on this list. We do play Miami, Wake Forest, and North Carolina. So, we could get a couple upsets there. It's going to be tough, but will we be at the level to where we can pull that off in year one under Brent Key? I'm not sure. I really think our offense is going to be improved. I think our special teams are going to be improved. Our defense is really good under Andrew Thacker. I'm not worried about that. We got a lot coming back. Brent Key prevented disaster in the transfer portal. This past year was an insane year for the transfer portal, and GT came out mostly okay. We did lose a couple guys, but largely we are okay in the transfer portal and brought in some really, really exciting stuff, particularly offensively. So Brent Key, from what he showed, in year one, well, not even year one. This is technically his year one, but from what he showed as an interim, I just have faith in him to be able to, get us to 6-6, 7 wins, something like that. If we overachieve, then we definitely have room to move up on this list. But this is where I got us for now. This would be something I would be comfortable with and happy with. And Brent Key's, first kind of year. And I would just, I would be happy with kind of this pecking order here. Right under Georgia Tech is Louisville. So I have, been going back really, really back and forth on this. Louisville is a tough game that we obviously play them the first game of the year. I think it's going to be a very close game. Louisville's favored by 8 for some reason. That doesn't make sense to me. It should be something more like a field goal or 1 point or something, really. But a lot of people are high on Louisville. I mean, Louisville's also got a first-year head coach, and Jeff Brom, and he's a really good coach. What can he do in year one? Well, he had a ton of players, leave through the transfer portal, and he brought a ton in. He had 30-something players leave, had brought in 30-something players. So, it is impressive that, he's probably got, a lot going on there. They're very excited. They think that they're going to easily whoop Georgia Tech. I don't think so. I think that, the continuity, I just give the nod to the continuity with Brent Key, you know what I mean? And so I think he's had a little more time there to get comfortable and everything. And Jeff Brom, this will be his first game ever. Brent Key's already coached 8 games at Georgia Tech. And I just think that, obviously it's also in the Benz in Atlanta. It's basically a home game for us. So this is not a schedule prediction. But when I look at power rankings, I'm thinking who can beat who. And obviously we're playing them the first game of the year. So obviously that game is going to get brought up. But as for Louisville, we looked at their schedule. They have a tough schedule this year. They do. They have a tough schedule. I think 6-6 or 7-5 would be a really good year for them. This first game of the year for Georgia Tech and Louisville is kind of a crossroads, and what I think will set the tone for whatever team's season. And hopefully it's my Jackets because obviously it's really important for us to get that win. But, Louisville, I think, is a team that is kind of in the same situation as us, just trying to get to a bowl, trying to get to 7-5, and a first-year head coach and have a good year and have something to build off of. So we'll see about that. That's where I got them. A lot of people are super high on Louisville, thinking there's some kind of dark horse to contend for the ACC. I don't think so. Not in year one. I mean, obviously anything can happen. Like once the season starts, a lot of this will get thrown out the window. But for me, I'm thinking Louisville will probably be around 7-5 type team, middle of the road type stuff. So moving on from that, another team I kind of had trouble figuring out, NC State. I'm just not super high on them. They seem to disappoint every single year. And I just really, I don't really know what to say about NC State. Every year they're hyped up to be some kind of crazy team. Not this year. I think people finally caught on, myself as well. I was super high on them last year. I don't know. They just can seem to consistently underperform. They do have Brennan Armstrong, which is a quarterback that I happen to think is really good. But, we'll see. NC State probably just going to be a middle-of-the-road team. And, these four teams that I've got right here in this tier are, I think, is a razor-thin margin. I think any of them, when they play, are going to have really close games with each other. And I just think this is kind of a middle-of-the-road stuff. And like I said, it's really hard to kind of gauge the middle-of-the-road at ACC. It's almost impossible to predict. But just because NC State's so disappointing, I don't know. I got them a little lower than the rest of these guys. So we'll see what they're able to pull off this year. Moving on, Syracuse, I think that they're probably going to be trying to get to a bowl, this season. Could this be a year where they randomly are, amazing? I don't know. They're such a hard team to figure out. They'll probably be 6-6 or 7-5 like the rest of the teams, but, I've got them kind of at the top of the crappy tier. Obviously, we're getting down to the bottom here, and these are the crappier teams. I just think they'll have potential to be crappy, and maybe Dino Babers gets fired. I think they also have potential to probably be pretty good. They could get 7 or 8 wins. I really don't know. Syracuse is super hard to predict, so we'll just have to see with them. But then we get into the really crappy teams. Virginia Tech, has been a disaster there for a while now, and they got this Brent Pry guy, and he sucks, and they're going to be. I think their ceiling is probably a bowl game. That's probably what they should. Ceiling 6-6, absolute ceiling for Virginia Tech. They could be the worst of the best, best of the worst here. If they really put their hearts to it, then maybe they could get to a bowl and have some hope for the future. And these next two teams, Boston College has potential. They've had some good years under Jeff Hafley. Kind of all fell apart last year. Not sure what to think of them. They had Phil Jerkovic, their really good quarterback, leave. They're a disaster, at offensive line, and they're just things are just really bad at Boston College. They lost to UConn. Jeff Hafley didn't get fired for whatever reason. They're probably giving him 1 year. Who knows? He's coaching for his job here, but who knows how that's going to go. I seriously doubt he's going to be able to claw his way out of this one. I'm thinking they're probably looking for a new coach at the end of the year or possibly during the season because things are not very good there at Boston College. Last and least, again, is Virginia. Just terrible. Tony Elliott was a terrible hire. He was about to get fired from Clemson, so I don't know what they were thinking when they hired him. Their first year was abysmal. Their second year, not looking any better. They just absolutely don't have anything. I've not seen anything that is pointing anywhere close to being a good sign for Virginia. They're just horrible. They're not gonna make a bowl. They're not gonna do anything. Tony Elliott, they're already sick of him there. He's terrible coach, and I just think Virginia's going to be the worst team in the conference, and one of the worst in the country too. So that's my ACC power rankings. Let me know what you guys think. If I got something wrong, I'd like to see you do better because ranking, especially the middle of the conference, is really hard. But let me know what you guys think, and I'll come back at you with some more ACC content soon. So. Go Jackets, and I'll see you guys next time.